Hey, it's Debra Atkinson. Let's talk about lean muscle, maintaining your lean muscle, avoiding frailty as we age. Now, I'm popping in to do this today, which is actually the last day of registration for a 12-week program. No matter when you're coming to this, is all relevant. So if you are a woman over 40 or you're approaching that, right now is the best time for you to be thinking about these things. But if you're a woman who's over 50, over 60, over 70, this is still pertinent because all the changes that we go through in menopause, perimenopause is when it really starts. So pre-menopause, we are in our reproductive years still. Even those of us who don't choose children, we're still in reproductive years. That mean our hormones like estrogen, testosterone, progesterone are still at their kind of all-time high in our lifespan. What happens as we go through perimenopause, that stage where we're coming down and out of reproduction? We don't actually need that. And life and Mother Nature have determined that we can decrease those hormones, and that's just a part of aging. However, what do we know now? That hormone replacement is actually a viable way to support lean muscle tissue, bone density, and brain health. Changes your skin and the outward appearance of fine lines and wrinkles as well. But no longer, are those studies relevant that scared us all about hormones, and synthetic hormones are still something to be cautioned about, to understand that there's bioidentical, made like human-like, yes, in a lab, because there was no other way to grab them, right? But synthetic, meaning made falsely, made from pharmaceuticals, where there's a huge impact on your system as a derivative of those things. Putting anything in your system that is not normal, quote unquote, like your body, is going to cause some side effects, negative ones. That's where we saw increase in disease, increase in cancer. But bioidentical hormones, here's the status in 2024. And let's be clear, I am a fitness professional, a medical exercise specialist, a strength and conditioning coach, and not a doctor, not a medical doctor, a naturopath of any type. However, I study with them and I work with them in referral basis, and I educate myself constantly because I work specifically with women in midlife and menopause. And we know now that exercise research, medical exercise research, sports research really serves women in a very small percentage. So if we were looking at women in menopause and how much they're represented in studies in science, so they're the subject studied, it's a very small percent, probably below 10%. So if you and I didn't know to ask, and even as a trainer and as an educator at a university for 15 years, never ever did we talk to students about menopause. Did we talk about hormonal changes in menopause? The only time we really talked about hormones was when we talked about stress and the adaptation, and we talked about diabetes, and we talked about insulin, or we were talking pre and postnatal exercise because of the changes in hormones and what they did to joints. But never did we really talk about hormonal changes for young women in puberty, for women going through fertility, and for women in menopause. And we absolutely have to, because right now, at this pivotal point, as you are either maintaining or gaining lean muscle mass, or you're losing it, if you're not doing the right things, that is due to the changes hormonally that are happening. When estrogen comes down, cortisol goes up. That is a hormone that helps us maintain muscle. This one helps decrease muscle, breaks it down. It's called catabolism. And that means we have to work really hard. We have to do the right planning for how much exercise, what kind of exercise, how much rest, and how much is that time-wise, and is it also sleep, and not just stress reduction from an exercise standpoint, but reducing our emotional stress also impacts how well we recover from exercise. And how about your diet? Are you getting adequate calories? Are you getting adequate protein? Because if you're not, potentially you're going to lose lean muscle mass. We can't afford to do that, or we become frail. we become at risk for osteopenia and osteoporosis. And most women are surprised, shocked. Some doctors are shocked based on your lifestyle habits. I can't believe that you have it. Most women over 40 are very likely candidates for it, partially because we've ignored gut health. We've been very light. If you're light and lean and you're a smaller stature, you don't have as much load on your bones. If you weren't lifting heavy, if you weren't having high percentages of protein and high gram of protein per meal, not just per day, we were missing out. So let's talk about how to get that back. Number one, we now know whether you choose HRT or you don't, we can increase lean muscle tissue and we can increase bone density. But we've got to talk about the how. So a couple of studies. I'm going to throw this out and we're going to have these in an upcoming podcast, but I want you to have it first. And that is that strength training can look like a lot of different things. So someone may be thinking, what about yoga and body weight training? Can you do that? I'm often asked, what's my opinion? And when I'm asked, I know I'm being asked twofold. I'm 60. As of last week, I'm being asked as a person, what do I think of that? And I'm being asked based on your professional experience working 40 years with women in midlife, what do you know about the science and what have you seen anecdotally, right? So here's what I have to say about that. It's a great start. If you're just getting off the couch, doing body weight exercises can be fantastic. Doing yoga is really body weight training. If you're coming down and you're weight bearing and you're doing upward and downward facing dog, you're doing one arm planks, all of that is weight bearing exercise. And will that help you gain lean muscle if you haven't been doing that up until that point? Yes, we've seen it. And there's a wide continuum. So if we want to put more load, more weight bearing load, and get more volume of resistance training, heavier load so that we can lift our own carry-on bag into the overhead compartment, or we have that choice of lifting our own or someone else's, and we want to be able to live in our own homes and be independent. We want to maintain that lean muscle strength and full range of motion, strength within that full range of motion. And that's what really this is all about, right? Putting that carry-on in the overhead bin. So yes, you can make strength gains and gain lean muscle mass to some effect with body weight exercises, including yoga. However, you're going to be limited with body weight exercises. There's really no pulling, right? You're doing pushing exercises. You can do that, but pulling exercises posturally is really what we need. How many of you have your shoulders up to your ears and don't even know it? And you know you need to put that down because you're chronically tense up here and in those upper trapezius muscles. That's a lot of things, but partially it's learning how to depress and retract the muscles behind your back so your chest stays open, your posture stays good. We're not getting that rounded upper back kyphosis as we age. Think about your parents and your grandparents. What's their posture like, right? So sitting that back is really important. We need pulling exercises. You're gonna have to have some outside resistance in order to do that. However, I also want to point out to you, if you're a woman in midlife, there's a cumulative effect on loss as we age. But for women, far more than men, we start with less muscle than men. We lose it dramatically because of the estrogen. We just go boom, 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 we're in perimenopause and boom, we lose estrogen dramatically. They really rely far more, a little on estrogen, but they rely far more on testosterone. They come down kind of like a smooth landing. They don't crash. They don't have that impact of, now I no longer have a period, right? I'm no longer in, reproductive years. I'm in menopause now. So their slowdown is much less dramatic and they have the opportunity then to kind of ramp things up along the way. We don't have that luxury because we started with less lean muscle mass and smaller skeletons overall. And you may be a larger size of women with larger bones, thicker bones, still comparative to men, you're still at a lower level. Strength training, resistance training is really key. So starting to do something with weights, whether it's that you're using machine weights at a gym or rec center or you're using free weights at home, always my preference, and since the pandemic, I highly recommend that all of us have something at home, because inevitably life gets crazy and busy. So have 3 sets of dumbbells. So you have a light, a medium, and a heavy set. You can do anything so you can stimulate major muscle groups, do a push, do a pull, and do leg exercises so that you can say, boom, stayed consistent. Yes, I did it, got the stimulation. I'm not losing muscle mass this week, not on my watch. It's easy to do. You can do a 10 or 15 minute workout really and do total body, and I highly recommend total body. We don't do a body part, a body part, a body part, because you want an increase in your total body mass, your metabolism boost. We want to do upper body and lower body. We want to do front and back, ideally on the same day. The studies show that the metabolism boost when you're doing it like that is far greater than if you're just doing a body part. And you have to remember, it's not just muscle group and say, well, I didn't use that muscle group, so I'm fine, I rested. It's your endocrine system, and that includes your stress, cortisol, your stress hormone. If you're stressing it on Monday, lifting hard, and then you stress it again on Tuesday, lifting hard, even if it's a different muscle group, your endocrine system doesn't necessarily know. You're still like knocking on my door. You're knocking on my door again, and wait a minute, I didn't have a chance to recover. That's not good, right? So you want to let's have a great workout. Let's make it challenging and tough. Not that sends you to the couch for the rest of the week, but just says, okay, now I'm gonna recover really well by doing walking and yoga in between and dancing around and just being otherwise active, maybe gardening and playing pickleball and enjoying life. But then I'll do another hard, maybe a HIIT or a strength training 2 or 3 days later when I'm fully recovered. That plan is so very important. But the key common denominator is we can't choose it. We can't just say, but I like yoga. Yeah, that's my exercise. And I know a lot of women used to do that. I don't really like strength training, so I don't do it. That we really, what you're saying to me is, I don't really care if at 80 I'm weak and fatter and more susceptible to disease, because your immune system will also suffer from that. And I know nobody would say that, right? Because we love life. We love those we love, and we want to see them and walk down the aisle. We want to be in the crowd when they walk across the stage. We want to be there for all those moments. And in order to do that, we need the muscle, we need the strength, we need the stamina, we need all of it. So very important. So I want you to be thinking, how am I getting that? How am I increasing my lean muscle? Not just stopping it, but I also want you to measure. So for anyone out there who's still on the fence, watch how what you're doing is working. Don't make any changes if you're reluctant to do that, but do this one thing. Get yourself a smart scale so that at home you can measure, what's my percent of lean muscle mass? How many pounds or kilograms of absolute mass do I have? Not a percentage. The problem with taking a percent of lean muscle mass, say your skeletal muscle mass is X percent, is that if your fat goes up or down, this changes it. But it doesn't mean that you're stronger or weaker necessarily. We need to know that absolute mass. Metabolism is reliant and dependent on lean muscle mass. It's the only metabolically active tissue in your body. So if you lose lean muscle mass and you're doing anything like GLP-1 agonists, Ozempic or Wegovy, you should be strength training, you should be prioritizing your protein so you don't lose it. So I'm not gonna go into that, but those are concerns that we need to have at this point in time. So yes, yoga, it's weight bearing, fantastic. Yes, body weight exercises, push-ups, planks, squats, but they're not really taxing your body enough so that you really will increase lean muscle mass. So it's a critical part of getting the strength you need, not just for now, to decrease symptoms like belly fat, hot flashes, and night sweats when you're working hard enough. If you're exercising and you say, it's not helped me, it may be that your intensity needs to dial it up just a little. Seems counterintuitive. I know many of you would say, but I'm not sleeping and I have hot flashes and night sweats, I don't have that much energy. And you may say, I want to cut back. Actually, according to the research, when it's interpreted, the researchers all say yes, that 7 symptoms of menopause, weight gain, particularly belly fat gain, anxiety, depression, low libido, and looking at your loss of lean muscle and loss of bone density. Those are big 7 that we tend to see either because we've been tested and or we see it and feel it. There's no muscle tone there. There's a lot more fat there, right? And those things we know that we can offset if we're lifting weights correctly. And insomnia is another one. Hot flashes and night sweats may be surprising, but they only respond when the exercise is intense enough. You can't do a low intensity exercise and figure that that helps unless you're under adrenal fatigue. I hope that was helpful. Strength training is the key. It's the first thing. Prioritize it. Don't do it more often. Prioritize it so that you know you're rested when you come to those sessions, and then slip in your walking, your yoga, your Pilates, those other things you love to do, potentially high intensity interval training if you're ready for it. If you have adrenal fatigue, you're not ready for it. If you're tired all the time, you gotta wait till you're not tired all the time and fix that first. But strength training, for most of us, is the place to start. Let me know if you have questions down below, and if you need somewhere to start that is based on research featuring women just like you. You can watch this channel, but for progression from A to B to C for 12 weeks and coaching with me, check out our strength training program called Stronger. I'll put the link down below, and I hope to see you on the flip side. Stronger.